Welcome to Modern Mythology, a podcast that explores the many intersections of story and system. In every episode, we will discuss some facet of how RPGs function as modern myths, providing a shared canvas for creativity and the collaborative discovery of new worlds. For more information about this episode, articles, or links to our other related projects, visit modernmythology.net.
New system, new setting.
Let's do it.
All right, well, this is pretty exciting because part of our space, we had all talked about, what campaigns we're going to do or what games we're going to play for the podcast. And this is a departure from that, right? And the reason was because Jamie and I have been working on the idea of running a online, likely streaming game. Due to the brilliance of my co-host, we did a poll. And we had a couple ideas, and several of the ideas we had all fit into the Trinity continuum. So I converted those very broad ideas into one of the various settings of the Trinity continuum, of which there's a number. I think there's 8 at this point or something right like that. They all begin with A. So it's Trinity continuum, Aegis, Adventure, Aeon, Anima, and Aberrant, right? And Assassins.
Not at all confusing.
And all it is, very quickly, and there's going to be a supplementary
quiz later. Yeah.
there's going to be a supplementary video that I'm going to produce for these for anybody to be able to resource when they want to play the game, right? I'm going to put links in Discord and be like, hey, this is the background to all this stuff. In front of you, by the way, and I hope you guys take a look through it, is the original Aeon book. We talked a little bit about this, that book is kind of notorious because when White Wolf produced it, at the time, Aeon Flux was going on.
MTV came after them.
And MTV actually sued White Wolf.
Oh, so this is when it was White Wolf before Onyx.
That is okay. White Wolf, right? So they sued White Wolf, and White Wolf basically had to change the name of the game to Trinity. Mm-hmm. Now, they had always conceived the game, and Aeon was the first one. It's a game about scions, about people with psychic powers in the near future, 2100s. They had always planned on there being Adventure, Aberrant, and Aeon, right? And so it wasn't too difficult to say, well, we'll call our game Trinity Aeon, right? Well, they gave store owners, so I ran a store when this was happening, and they gave store owners stickers to put over the name of the game.
That's funny.
It's a requirement. You must do this.
You must do this by order of the court. I think...
Which you proceeded to ignore.
Which I proceeded to ignore. And when I sold these, I sold them separate. I'm like, you're supposed to put this sticker on this book. I'd be very curious if anybody actually did. If our listeners actually put a sticker on their Aeon book, I'd like to hear. It was actually kind of funny that before realizing, and by the way, this has been out now for probably 8 years since they rebooted this. I think 2016, maybe 2018. Which I didn't realize. I wasn't really following. I ran this game for a good 10 years back in the day. And, of course, we all know, I know it's a broken record, but I just sold a crap ton of books. And amidst the things that I sold was all of my Aeon Trinity stuff and Aberrant, right? So everything from Aberrant, everything from Trinity, everything from Adventure. But I wasn't too disappointed. I did rebuy all of the PDFs. And they had a really good bundle on a drive-through RPG. So if anybody wants the old resources, all of them are on drive-through RPG, which is pretty cool.
And you kept that original book.
And I kept the original book. I wasn't going to sell my original book because it's like a piece of interesting history,
no doubt.
you know. So I'm not going to go too much again. I'm going to do a supplementary video. But basically, what's important for the story is that amidst that whole line of Trinity Continuum books, it is important to understand that there's sort of historical relevance. I'm not going to talk to you guys about the deeper meanings of all this crap. But what is important is that in the 80s, there erupted, it's called eruptions, there erupted superheroes. We call them novas, right? And they were people with extraordinary powers. Now, the Aeon Society had always worked with people who were a little special, right? But these were individuals beyond the canon, right? They flew, blasts came out of their eyes, they could change time, they could make new species, they could, the things that they could do is pretty phenomenal.
X-Men, basically.
Totally X-Men, right? And it's important to understand that in this setting, which I think is really unique to superhero settings, is they had a huge effect on the world, right? They cleared up, they literally completely revised the ozone layer, right? They transformed the planet to be more livable, right? They sent humanity out into space. We have extrasolar colonies, including on the moon is a major, millions upon millions of people now live on the moon because of novas. So they had a really significant hand in our history. Another thing that's unique about novas is that what happened was novas can actually push their power. Unlike a lot of games that I've seen, superhero games, you can really do extraordinary things beyond what your powers are. But to do that, you have to kind of push your power and push the envelope of the power. Now, the source of the power is called quantum flux. It's literally reaching into other dimensions and kind of pulling ideas, if you think. I don't know if you guys have ever played or read, if anybody's read the Roger Zelazny books, the Amber books. And Amber was interesting because you had these beings who were kind of godlike, and it used to be called traveling through shadow. And so the idea would be, and by the way, it's an RPG, it's a diceless RPG, very interesting. It was almost completely designed to be a LARP game, which is kind of interesting. But it's based on Roger Zelazny's books were very, very popular in the 70s and early 80s. And you played these characters who could manipulate shadow. And all it meant is I need a sword. Boom, I have a sword now. But within the context of, that's how it manifested. But within the context of the background, what was going on is you were going to a dimension where you had a sword. You know what I mean? Which was pretty, I'm going to a dimension where I can fly. Now I can fly, kind of deal. So that was, and this is that kind of thing. Quantum flux is actually tears in the universes that you're just reaching out and being able to do this crazy stuff. A lot of times you don't have the control over it like that, right? Only very rare people did, So you had these novas. Well, when you push your power, what you're doing is you're really reaching deep into that quantum flux, and it changes you, right? And so in its core, Aberrant is really a game about transhumanism. How far am I willing to go? Do I want to kind of remain human? Do I want to remain human looking? What do I want to, or do I just want to go hog wild, and really transcend my humanity? Unfortunately, transcending humanity, we all know how that works out. Human bigotry sort of digs in, but, unfortunately also changes you psychologically. So not only maybe you look like the abomination, you might start thinking that these other people that are surrounding you are less than you.
Power corrupts, right?
Power corrupts, right? You're not really relating to these as human beings, so on and so forth. So aberrants, the more and more power they got, the more and more that they were pushed to do things, the more they became greater than and separate from humanity. And they became aberrants. Well, after time, historically speaking, people forgot, quite honestly, that they were called novas anymore. Mm-hmm. And they became the big villains of the world. Fewer and fewer were trying to help people, and more were trying to harm people. Even to the point where you have one nova who was trying to stave off a number of very significant hurricanes and accidentally basically flooded Florida in tsunamis. Mm-hmm. One nova exploded and created 1,000-mile diameter nuclear wasteland in the middle of the U.S., mm-hmm. completely destroying the U.S. economy and infrastructure. Millions and millions of people died. Hundreds of millions. So, and that's just one place, mm-hmm. right? So you have on Earth, which you are never going to get to in this game. You might, but not this
session, right?
Not this session. Back on Earth, you have these pockets of just wastelands. It's very interesting in Trinity Aeon how many different genres you could kind of touch. You could mm-hmm. play a post-apocalyptic game. You could play a treasure hunters game. You could play a aberrant hunting
urban
game.
Sci-fi.
You could urban sci-fi. You could totally play games in space like we're about to, So now, push forward a couple centuries. It is currently midway through the 21st century. I forget the year exactly.
Like 1 century then.
Yeah, I think it was 75 years ago. China, which is now a world power, basically says, aberrants, get the hell out of here or we're going to destroy Earth, because they were primarily living in a colony on the moon. It's called Luna. So they were like, look, we have the ability to basically just wipe everybody off the face of the map and start clean. So your choice is to leave or to get destroyed. And all of humanity other than us will get with you. Right? So the aberrants decided to leave. So all in more or less one fell swoop, the aberrants went out. There still is occasionally attacks that happen. There's some that they find aberrants, but by and large, the threat is gone. Until about 100 years later, aberrant attacks start happening again. And that's when we discover that humanity has found a new brand of superpowers called Syads or Scions, right? And these are a lot more subtle, which is why people didn't notice them. They kind of came out of the woodwork to defend Earth against the aberrants. So you have people who are not alien, they're not as significant powers, but they're pretty significant powers. They're a lot more subtle. Psychokinetics tend to be a little more flashy, which are not in this game because they can fly and, mm-hmm. have, fireballs and stuff like that. They're largely based off of an Australian group called the Legion. They're sort of like Earth's heroes mm-hmm. now. Mm-hmm. And so they came out and it's like, all right, here's the deal. So you now have all of these psionic orders, right, for each of the types. And by and large, you generally are going to have one type, right? You're generally going to be a telepathic. You're generally going to have a biokinesis or vitakinesis or psychokinesis or clairsentience. You're not generally going to have more than one mm-hmm. suite of powers, mm-hmm. right? They're very, very limited. Still powerful, but very, very limited. And novas erupted. They became novas, right, by usually traumatic events. Scions, you have to go to one of the orders and be tested and go through a magical vat. It's called the Prometheus chamber. They gave you the psionic power to that order. Mm. So, for instance, one of our characters is from the Ministry, is a telepath. All telepaths on the planet went to the Ministry to their Prometheus chamber to become telepaths. So there's a great deal of control involved in that sort of thing. Now, there is a group called Aegis. Okay? Aegis is basically a planetary defense force, right? It takes its job very seriously. It employs scions, but it largely is there to use technology and tactics and manipulation to defend Earth from aberrants. So a lot of Aegis operatives, which is generally what they're called, are generally pretty competent people because they're expected to be able to manage alien forces, right? By the way, we've discovered that we are not alone in the universe. Besides aberrants, there are actually several species of aliens that some are friendly to us, including a group called the Chin, as some are not, called the Chromatics. So that's what's going on with that. You guys probably...
The Chromatics are evil.
They're kind of, yes, just like the dragons, exactly. So, yeah.
I'm going to draw that parallel wherever I can.
So Aegis decides, look, we have an edict, we're defending Earth. But, the best defense is a good offense. So what we're going to do is we're going to fund and put together a little crew, right, of crack team to send out into the fucking deep space and act ostensibly autonomously to hunt aberrants.
Is it just one ship, or is it like...
This is one ship.
Okay.
This is one... You guys...
I know we're on one ship. I wasn't sure if there's like multiple teams that they send out, or if they really just send...
Not to hunt aberrants.
Okay.
No. This is, as far as you know, this is a pilot program.
Wow, okay.
Because they don't know if you guys are going to survive.
Right.
I'll be honest with you, like some of your team members, there's 8 people on the AOV Keres, right? And the people on the crew on the Keres are very, very competent, right? There's only 2 scions. There's 2 talents. Talents are people who have little knacks, right? Who have a little special thing, but they're not really superpowers, right? They're just better than other people. You know what I mean? They don't even
better than pretty much
recognize. Yeah, they don't recognize that their talents.
Like a superhero.
Jason Bourne, right? Kind of idea. Or anybody really in an action film, right? You're kind of a little above and beyond the regular people, which are called in Aeon neutrals. You have 4 neutrals, right?
On the ship.
4 neutrals, 2 talents, and 2 scions, right? One of the talents is the commander, is Eno. You can see Eno here. Yes, this is great podcasting. I will show these when I do the video. And Eno is actually a talent. Again, doesn't know it kind of idea. And then we have the 2 scions. We're going to talk about the characters and 1 talent. And then we have sort of a vet, sort of burned out containment vet. We have, let's see here, we have a ghost. We have a person who... Their motives are a little questionable. They're a freelancer. They're actually a mercenary on the ship and are used to get in and get out. We have the communications officer. The communications officer is actually here from Aeon Society, is not a member of Aegis officially. And what many of you don't know is that they are secretly a embedded journalist. We also have Amina, and Amina is sort of a young, fresh medic, right? And then, of course, that's the crew besides you guys, right? You guys get to decide who stays on the ship, who comes with you after I explain the mission. Any questions about the setup? You're basically going to be parked outside a planet, right? You could kind of see this game as a more grounded, little grittier Star Trek. If you approach it in that fashion, you probably would not be off. I think newer Star Trek, I'm talking about TOS, right? Because newer Star Trek gets into the politics and stuff like that. In a longer campaign, that might happen, right? But in this case, for this little ship, you are here to kill aberrants and get out alive. That's your job.
How long have we been traveling? Is from our perspective. Like, how long have we been isolated, just the 8 of us,
Right.
getting to know each other or getting to like each other or not?
You have not been out here for long. In the course of the game, if you wanted to sort of have a little flashback scene where you gain a little advantage because you've killed like one aberrant so far, then that's great that you could do that. But it's really not much more than that.
Okay.
And then just then how did we travel out here? Because there's a few ways of traveling through space.
So there are teleporters. You do not have a teleporter on this. You have been coming out of one of the extrasolar colonies. There is a system called Karu. And Karu is special. It's a mining colony. It's got a population of about 100,000 people. And it's surrounding a crab pulsar. And you guys, it was sort of determined, you were kind of sent out here. You know, there are ways that ships can be sent, you know. If you needed to get back to Earth, you would have to kind of find a way to get back to Earth. They were like, look, we want you to be resourceful. We want you to figure out how to get from place to place to place. We don't have the resources to send out a Leviathan. Those are jump ships, right? So you're going to spend kind of weeks jumping, like going non-FTL, right? You're not going to get teleported. If you can find teleporters, which a lot of colonies have teleporters, because that's how the fuck they got out here. You know? So the idea is be resourceful and so on and so forth. There is a mining colony but you guys are actually outside another small planet, a little more akin to probably Mercury.
Okay.
All right. You're not entirely certain. This is called Karu V. You're not entirely certain why there's a colony here, but you did attain some readings and a signal that would indicate that there is a colony that exists here, and there you have some indication, particularly in an orbit that you established about a week ago, that there is some aberrant, there's some quantum activity on the planet. Quantum activity, by and large, remember, means a tear in the space-time, you know, and that more often than not means aberrants. There are other ways to acquire quantum signatures, but so far from what you can tell, aberrants are the best way. Again, your ship is, you know, a complement of 8. It has a containment, like a shield. You don't have a cargo hold because you're not a cargo vessel, but you do have some machinery on board. You do have something called a maker on board. Makers are basically 3D printers for whatever you need. Right? Your maker is not biological by and large. You do have a med bay that's going to have some capability to synthesize medications, stuff like that. Maybe small organs if you took a long time, if you had the right expertise, but it's not designed for that.
The colonies on this planet that's like Mercury? You said?
Yes, it's the size of Mercury.
So is it like, we're able to scan it and tell like whether it's like underground or like how they protect themselves?
That's an excellent question. You are uncertain, but you are getting life signs. You are getting a very small contingent. You're guessing under 100 people, which is just odd. You're not certain what's going on there. You do find a structure, but that structure, you're like, there's a lot of silicate in the air. You're gonna be in vac suits if you went down there that not only block out radiation and such, but also have certain layers of like armor and things like that, so you can.
And in our search for aberrants, this is just sort of an aberrant colony. So in a sense, like this is an odd location for a small amount of people to be. So we don't have. Do we have at this point any, proof positive that there's an aberrant here, or we're just? We're just investigating.
Other
it
than a quantum
because
signature,
it's sort of an odd.
Yeah. And there could be, as your medic would probably, and your communications officer would point out, this could just be as easy as a search and rescue. I mean, if there are a lot of people when the teleporters. There's an organization called the Upeo Macho, who are the order of teleporters. For about 50 years, they disappeared, right? Stranding a lot of human extrasolar colonies that had to fend for themselves for about 50 years, right? They just returned about 4 years ago.
Just like, my bad. Basically, they don't get an explanation.
Basically, yes.
I would like to use my attunement because I have a sight. I have a sense of influence, and my attunement can make me aware of aberrants.
You can, however, you're going to have to be on the planet to go beyond the sensors. Yeah.
Got it.
The ship is built to sort of, when I say sensors, when I say you can sense something, the ship is built to kind of use your abilities at a little bit of a distance. So there's some sort of noetic piece on this ship that allows you to sort of channel some of what's going on.
Got it.
Now, why don't we, for the sake of the podcast, tell us who your characters are, what role you have on the ship, and maybe a little bit of a description. So why don't we start with Cassie?
Sure. So I'm playing Cassian Holt. His concept or whatever is the dispassionate strategist. He's a tactician who I see aberrants as variables rather more than monsters. And he's kind of like, he looks younger than he probably is a little bit. He's got kind of like a thin frame and looks kind of unassuming, but he's got very like kind of piercing cold eyes, but otherwise he seems like a, just long hair, kind of regular looking guy. He doesn't, you all know he's a telepath, but he doesn't, come off as being a superhero or anything of the sort.
He looks totally inept, really.
Right? Yeah. I'm saying he's not physically imposing.
Out of his realm.
And what is your role on the ship? You're a pilot, right?
That's one of my roles, right? The tactician, but also like pilot's one of my skills. I probably am a pilot. I've got a lot of skills in physics too, so I guess I'm one of the science officers.
Right. Mark.
Well, I'm one of the Scion officers as well. My character's name is Cassina Dupree, and she is a precog. Her mission is to kind of sense out where the aberrants are. She's kind of got a mysterious background, which hopefully we'll have an opportunity to reveal for everybody. But she's an interesting character, kind of a little aloof, a little stands backish, takes the whole scene in and tries to make sure it works to, at a minimum, her advantage.
Your image, she actually has some scarring.
She does have some scarring. She's had some, tough rumbles. And despite growing up in a very privileged life, she's had her scraps, and she's paid the price for them.
And now you're out in space. Now, like your privilege is, almost.
She's kind of rejected her privilege at this point. That's one of the reasons why she took this job, because something's calling her out there, and she's trying to figure out what that is.
Wow, man. Some of the crew people hope you don't find it. Awesome. And, the two scions on the ship are very, not aloof, but really are separate from some of the ship. Like, that, you both are a little hard to relate to, right? You have such crazy powers compared to what everybody else is, right? All right. We talked about Eno. Eno looks relatively young, is basically the operations commander. Eno kind of tells you guys what to do in many regards. Not necessarily the ship's captain. There's not really a ship's captain. It's really about operational. Very likely Cassian. So what we have, Cassian and Cassia?
Cassina,
Cassian, and Cassina. All right. I'm going to change their names later on when I publish this.
Yeah.
Well, your last name's Dupree, too.
Yeah, we can go back to Dupree.
We go by Dupree. Dupree and Holt. There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome. So...
that's character 2, right?
Yeah. So as a pilot, you're sort of like mission critical. Like making sort of operational decisions is often up to Eno, and is sort of like the Aegis decision maker, where while you have control over the big picture, you are from the ministry,
Right. Unlike everyone else in the ship. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have
Virio-san?
Virio. And Virio is, why don't you tell us about Virio?
Virio-san is here with a purpose, with utility. He is the SCS, which is the System Control Specialist. He is highly adept at the technological systems on the ship. He can build, fix, and operate all kinds of drones and technological equipment. His background, actually, he spent his entire childhood going from urban environment to urban environment on various planets, essentially as, just surviving, hacking his way through life, but developing a specific set of skills that the Aegis picked up on. Perhaps he was arrested at some point, and rather than spend his life in the brink, he was given the choice. Let's put your particular set of skills to use. So he is coming along on this mission in order to, obviously to assist. Also, because he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, right? He is a talent. Not a scion with any special ability, although, he is a wizard with his machinery and technology. He doesn't think that people with special abilities like psionic abilities or even the aberrants themselves are really deserving of any special high regard. So in that sense, he's also out to prove something that, his brain power and ability is just as valuable to this crew as anybody else is.
He's a little bit of a humanist.
Certainly. Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty. Fantastic. So, that being said, just a little note. Whenever we do actual plays, what we're usually doing is we've picked a system that some piece of the system is feeding into story, right? In ways that some traditional games do not. This is one of the interesting games, and one of the reasons why I like die pool systems is because you can use the die pool to literally tell interesting stories. And I think that Storypath actually codifies this in ways that Storyteller did not, that a lot of various games do not. And over the years, I've actually, and I think, Jamie, you have too, I actually have done this before Storypath really codified it. Now, that's not to be like, I did this before it was cool. But I just mean it's interesting that it's actually codified, right? And we'll talk about that as we go. So that's the piece of this. We're not talking about story structure. There's a lot of interesting things like that. I don't know how much combat we're going to do for this session. And we might see how combat can be different. And again, it's codified. But really what we're looking at here is when you roll dice, you're going to see in a lot of regards what that does. The only thing I am going to tell you, just so you can look at your characters and you know what's going on, this should be very simple. Stat plus skill. That's what you're rolling. Stat plus skill, right? Mark and Jamie, you have both run and played in storyteller-esque games. You're familiar with the D10s. You're generally trying to get 8s, right?
Is that different for Scions than for other?
No, it's different for Novas.
Oh, okay.
Novas get 7s.
Right. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Which is very interesting.
Right, yeah.
And we can talk about that later on, I think, when we talk about the, but we're not going to worry about that right now.
Okay.
But you need 8s. You need 8s.
And don't worry, Scott, I got this down because these are decators, so this is all going to be percentage-based.
No, Sean. It's not percentage-based. I'm sorry to tell you. You're going to count successes, and you're going to use anything from 8 or higher. Right? There is one piece of this equation that I'm going to explain to you before we start. Everything else we'll do as we go. 10s. What are we going to do with 10s? Well, interestingly enough, there are actually 2 systems for 10s in the Storypath system. And in various versions of this game, we're going to use both. This is how it works. By and large, 10s are going to be 2 successes. Okay? Now, if you decide you want to make it, if this is a really important role and you decide that you want a little bit of chance and you want to, as a friend of mine would say, risk it for the biscuit, you can decide to make it explode instead. So you could be risking it not giving you 2, it just being 1. You could never fail from it. But you could possibly get another 10, another 10, and another 10. It actually happens more often than you would guess. So if you're really like, I'm going to put it on the line, this is a really important role, we really need a lot of successes here, then I'll allow you to explode. Say, Scott, I'm going to make this an exploding roll. Otherwise, it counts as 2.
Okay. So you're using the simple rule.
I'm going to use the baseline as the simple, because that's what we need most of the time. Okay? By and large, a success is 1. There's a difficulty. Most difficulties are 1. If you succeed, you succeed. There are things to buy off. Some of you guys have things called enhancements. Enhancements are auto successes. So things you're really good at, they're just going to add auto successes. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so there you go. All right. You are orbiting this planet. It's a relatively small planet. I'm going to say you probably rotate in a solar day, probably 2 or 3 times because it's so small, 2 or 3 times per solar day. You're going to obviously have windows. You do have a landing craft, right? It's sort of designed to be able to do exit velocities and stuff like that.
I'm going to call it the dinghy.
The dinghy?
Yeah, just because
sounds good.
I'm going to call it.
Do we have comms, a way to contact them before going down? Or do we want to go down quiet?
Yes. So you are a relatively kind of military operation. Remember, you have these armored vac suits. You do have regular slug throwers, right? They don't like using them. Like, they don't hand out pistols, and you're not carrying them on the ship. Nobody wants guns, on the ship. That's very likely the commander and your security specialist, who is Owen, are the people who have access to weapons on the ship. When you're going to go down, they go and they give you rifles and pistols.
Okay.
Okay? It's caseless ammo. They don't often suggest it. They have to do a lot of analysis because they don't want you to be on a planet that has an atmosphere where instead of shooting things, your gun explodes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of logistics. In this case, they will give you it's actually the air's a little nitrogen rich, and there's like some high chlorine levels. It does sort of weird things. The ionization level of the atmosphere is very high. It makes a lot of communications and stuff. So you guys will be going in.
Time to go down without talking to them first.
Yeah. You've been trying, but you haven't heard anything since. Every once in a blue moon, you get something. Every once in a blue moon, you get what's clearly some sort of human message.
But I can't tell what the message is.
Why don't you make a scion roll for me? 3 dice.
Okay. It's just that.
Straight up scion.
Gotcha. I got a 10 and an 8 in that, so 3 successes.
3 successes, absolutely. You do. It's not quite a cry for help. It's really more very, very strong, like, emotional response to I want off this rock. Very strong sense of lack of belonging, a little depression in there. You're really seeing somebody who is not in traumatic distress, but in just like long-term, this is not working for me.
They don't want to be down there.
They don't want to be down there.
All right.
This was actually very difficult. So this is one of the things we're going to do. It's going to be a difficulty of 2. The ship is going to give you a boost, an enhancement. So you have 4 successes.
Okay.
It's going to be, so it was a 3. And in order to succeed, you're able to do that. Now, sometimes you can buy off difficulties, but there's also complications, right? So this is your choice. You could spend 2 dice to buy off the complication of not being able to identify the person when you meet them, which is something you generally are pretty good at.
Right.
But then you wouldn't get necessarily that emotional response. You were retconning a little bit, right? So it's 3, you have 4 successes, difficulty of 3 to get what you got, right? A 2 complication to you wouldn't be able to identify them. So you could choose to not get all of that emotional content and just get sort of a very garbled sense of psychic resonance, very strong emotions. You don't necessarily know what they are, right? Very strong emotions. So you could either get the detail, that's what I'll do. So you could choose to get the detail or get the...
I guess I'll get the detail and not know who it is.
Detail and not know who it is. Okay.
So I feel like I might be able to read it from their behavior.
So that's like a little way to play with, give you a decision with the dice, right? Cool. All right. Do you want to I'll give you a very quick sense. There's not a lot you're going to be able to learn here. I'll give you each a question. That was yours. Mm-hmm. Anybody have any other questions before you go down?
Does he tell us what he... Would you share what you sense?
No, because I don't have any conclusions to draw from it. So I would probably wait until I have some sort of conclusion to present, other than be like, someone down there is sad,
Yeah.
Right. You've already determined
someone
that
down
wastes
there.
more mental energy to have that conversation than for you to actually convey it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions before you go down?
No, my team won't work up to where it is, so I need to go down there.
Sounds good. All right. So now you have two things that you have to do. First, decide who's going down. The ship holds comfortably 4 people, uncomfortably 5 or 6.
You mean the landing craft?
The landing craft.
The dinghy.
Right. It would be funny if your ship. There's 8 of you.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second. Oh, no.
Yeah, the landing craft.
Ride. Okay.
Right. It's very narrow. It like literally hugs the hull. You guys are halfway inclined in it. It's particularly defensive for re-entry and stuff like that. It drops you and just sends you down fast enough. It's able to defend against, that sort of stuff. But then you're just dropping in a free fall until the last minute. So there is some technology or whatever, what you're in, that allows you're wearing vac suits in there. It does not have gravity. It does not have, you don't need gravity because you're falling. It does not have life support or anything to that effect. It's literally just a shell to get you down, and then it has the capability of skyrocketing you back up.
Right, we got our suits, so yeah. My suggestion, strategically, it would make more sense to bring the field commander, because he's got marine experience, and it's possible we would need that down there. But in terms of interest, it might be interesting for us to bring the burnt out containment vet with us. But I don't know if my character would suggest that necessarily.
So Owen is a very competent person. Owen is, by and large, one of the people, if you're going to meet resistance, you want
all right,
Owen
then I would say Owen.
If you want a social interaction, Owen is not the person to bring.
Well, we're not bringing him for that purpose, right?
The medic, Amina, is going to definitely be like, look, I definitely think I should go. We don't know what shape they're going to be in.
So those two?
Well, is he going to stay on the ship?
No. We can bring 2 with us. We can fit 5 on there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's fine. Yeah.
What about my supplies? Can I bring my...
All right, so right now it's the 3 of you. Mm-hmm. Who else are you bringing?
My vote would be for Owen and for the medic.
Owen, Amina, right? All right. So that's 5. Now, what kind of gear do you want to bring with you? Like, what are your priorities in terms of, you don't have a lot of storage, right? Amina and Owen do not get along. And Amina's like, look, I think we should bring one of the med bay revitalization pods. It's out from Orgatech. It's the Episcopalians from Switzerland. It's basically a stasis pod. It does a really good job at stabilizing and even long-term healing people. We don't know what we're going to meet down there. We don't know what kind of emergency. I have some equipment on me, but that I suggest, but that's going to take a person.
We wouldn't know to bring Owen then.
Right. That's her suggestion. And she's going to, who do you think has a relationship with Amina that is going to come to one of you that suggests that?
Probably not me.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a synergy just in terms of the technology, like the pod, and I may have helped her with repairs on that piece of equipment.
So it's up to you to advocate if you think that's important, or you want Owen with a gun. If you want somebody, you want the firepower. By the way, while Owen is a combatant, right, and has probably been in more conflicts than any of you can count. He is very protective. He's leave no man behind.
So this is a high velocity orbit, right? So what we could do is we could drop, and then have 3 of us go down. With the medic. Yeah. And then set up a little base camp, and then as that thing comes back, reconnect. And
so one of you go back up.
Right. One of us goes back up, collects him, then brings him down, and then it would take
Right.
14 hours, but in a 24-hour cycle, we could have everybody down and fully ready to go.
That's a good idea. I'm a fair shot. I'm not as good as Owen, but I'm a fair shot as long as I don't have to wrestle someone hand to hand.
Yeah, honestly, as much as I would want Amina to come, she would need her supplies. That's going to take extra.
Obviously,
space.
right. Obviously, right. So you get to choose the order. I think that's a great idea. You get to choose the order. It's basically it's basically like a full day, right? Kind of operation. Owen insists on going down in the first.
Yeah, and that's what I would suggest. I'd say the four of us go, leave Amina here.
And then she comes down
and
with the
then
day.
if we need to come back up, I'll come back up, collect her, the med pod, and maybe Eno, and then we'll come back down.
Of course,
but
I was going to point out to you that if you get injured in that 24-hour cycle, you have you have nobody who's got medical.
We'll have like a field kit, but not
a field kit.
Yeah. But we don't know what we're getting into.
Yep.
Right.
So, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
So this is, by the way, operationally, if we were to do this as a campaign, as an example, one of the things you would be doing here is being like, okay, what do we want? Do we want Owen or do we want, Kaz, who's the ghost?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because... but although Kaz doesn't say anything,
Yeah. If we had a better sense of what we were getting into.
those are your two heavy hitters. They're just very different kinds of heavy hitters.
Right.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Kaz is not very useful on the ship, where Owen is very useful protecting the ship. So,
Well, one way to think about it is that you send Kaz, Owen, and Amina down.
Yeah.
They set up the base camp of
you
operation.
could. Yeah.
And then the Scions go down once everything's set up.
Yep. You can
And
do
they're
that too.
protected.
You could take as many. You have to leave 2 people on the vessel.
Right.
So out of the 8, you can bring as many as you want, but you have to leave 2.
Well, we'll leave 2. But if we set that group of 4 down,
right.
and then we cycle down, that would be, but that's up to the group.
I mean, that'd be fine with my character. He could always just, play video games in his room. That's fine.
I'm meditating, doing my martial arts.
Wait, isn't that Sean's character? By the way, keep in mind your drones are not small.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is,
drones
I was tempting. I wanted to bring a surveillance drone with me.
Yeah.
The other thing is, in the interim, as we're waiting, I am just checking our vac suits and equipment, making sure that everything's in good working order.
Sure.
Yeah, doing that.
All right.
One of my enhancements is diagnostics. So,
Are you guys? Here's another question for space-wise. Are you guys? Do you see yourself bringing enough equipment that you need a crawler? So a crawler would be 1 person size, but it would give you some flexibility. For this game, I'm going to abstract it and say if you bring a crawler, then it increases the size of the things you can bring, it increases some extra redundancy, stuff like that. It would reduce equipment consequences. So going down as you're going down now, you're going down lean. Equipment consequences means somebody doesn't have a gun, somebody doesn't have this, somebody doesn't have that, until your system specialist repairs it or whatever the case is. If you go down with a crawler, which is another person's space, then you would lessen equipment consequences. Make sense? Complications are called.
I mean, I don't have many material needs. I space for a rifle, my suit, that sort of thing. But you may need more space, so that's kind of your call.
yeah, and then weaponry too. So I think we should err on the side of hostility here, and not that we're necessarily collecting things. And I'm also eyeballing the dinghy and going, why couldn't I just make that a crawler? I can't do that right now, but at some point, I could outfit
That it actually goes with you somewhere.
Yeah, just put tank treads on the bottom of it, and
I think it's also appropriate that there's some metrics going on where, luckily it can land probably within a day's travel of the colony, but there's very limited areas that it can go back and forth, right?
Sure.
You got it. There's a trajectory there, right? That between you guys and the ship does the math.
But I think on our first descent, we should prioritize weaponry and my surveillance drone.
Establishing a base camp, setting up a perimeter, getting the weapon up and going, and then the science.
Yeah, that seems like a good plan.
Sounds good. All right. So, so you're bringing a crawler and you're bringing a medbay pod, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the first trip down.
First, science or not. So it's like
And you can do them, right. So who's going down? Those are 2 people, right? So
drone, 4 people. We're going down. Kaz, Ghost, Drone, and Amina. Setting up the perimeter, setting up the base camp.
right. Kaz, Amina, and the crawler in the pod. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, the crawler in a pod take up
Each take a person.
Oh boy.
Well, I don't think we need the med pad.
Med
Yeah,
bed
that's fine.
another
Yeah.
time?
Med pod can come with.
Who are you leaving the ship is the important part. Eno says Eno does not need to go.
Yeah, doesn't need to go.
Right.
And then, wait, who's the field commander?
The operation commander is Eno.
Yeah, is
Oh, he's not gonna
Amina also does not need to go.
Well, that's medic, though.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And then the second crew is going to be
Us too.
And a mid-bay.
Dupree, Holt,
Med pad.
Medbay.
Medbay. We're missing one person.
Yeah, we're
We bring Ghost down.
Ghost, yeah.
Oh, Ghost.
Sorry, Cat.
Sorry.
Kaz.
Kaz. I love that you, behind his back, call him Ghost. Not to his face. All right, good. All right, so this is ultimately for Vario.
Yeah.
You guys go down. Boy, is it a bumpy ride. How comfortable are you in this sort of like plummeting coffin?
I mean, I'm used to space travel. I understand the forces at work. So if it's a bumpy ride, it's not a concern for me unless it starts to cause injury.
Sure.
But I'm not. I'm comfortable with the integrity of the craft. It's kind of like being on a roller coaster.
Okay.
I'm strapped. It might be wild.
All
But
right,
I'm
you
strapped.
understand the mechanics going on where other people hear like twings and creaks and, start seeing the flames and like others might be a little less. Who's with you is Amina and Owen.
Amina might be a little on edge.
Yeah, I think Amina, especially being so young, right? So Amina's just white-knuckled, like freaking out, as you just compliment. And there is a point in time, though, where the ship does something it's not supposed to do. It goes up.
Mm.
So normally it's a pretty straight trajectory, right? Mm. But something gets caught, it hits some sort of atmospheric anomaly where it does like this and then goes down. And you're like, and Owen, who's just like, almost asleep, right? Sees like your little look of panic. Make a composure roll.
That's supposed to go right.
Make a composure roll for me. Unless you want to fail. You can always say you fail. It doesn't mean you're going to freak out, but just whether or not you can show your inner panic.
Just straight composure or any skill?
Straight composure. Single success. That's all you need.
Nope.
Didn't get it.
So Owen sees like the look of worry on your face and I think there's like a point like where maybe you're all going to have because again it's internal, right?
Run the suit, yeah.
Let's see. What does Owen do? What does Owen do in order to that shows his discomfort that he was completely placid before?
You can see Owen, he closes his eyes halfway and he starts breathing. He does a breathing control method.
Right. Right. Cassian taught you all this meditative technique, and he was like sat out, right? He's like sitting on this, eating some mush, and now he's like,
Yep.
Good. All right, you guys hit hard. I need you to make stamina rolls.
No, it's just me on the first descent.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I need you
Viren, all
to
right.
make stamina rolls. A stamina roll to stay conscious.
Oh, And stamina alone. Huh? I got a 1. All right.
Oof. Wow, you only have 1 stamina?
1 stamina.
Ooh.
Nope.
Another 2.
All right, so good. All right, so you're out, and in fact, everybody is out. You all wake up. You wake up to the traditional like flashing lights.
Yeah.
You know, the first thing you're worried about is what damage is there.
Yeah.
Right. The second thing you're worried about is anybody critically hurt. You can't right now see through their visors. What do you do?
I'm going to get to Amina first.
Okay. So you're going to get yourself out, right? For you, even though there's damage going on and stuff like that, you're able to extricate yourself from this. Boy, are you sore. You, regardless of, I don't know if there's inertial, whatever technology, right, that exists, that's kept you alive, did not help your everything else.
No,
you know?
Yeah.
So you're like,
You can have a nice suit, but if you slam up against the outside of it.
yeah. So you get out, you grit your teeth. Again, you are not the most hardy of individuals.
Mm-mm.
You just stumble over to Amina's seat. What do you do?
See if she's alive. See if I can't rouse her.
Well, what?
I need her to. I would do it from the suit. So again, just to make sure that.
So do you think
got
maybe the
integrity.
suit has like some sort of biomonitor on it?
Biomonitor and just the integrity of the suit in general. So
Right.
and then see if I can't see inside her visor.
Right. So you know that
See
if
if I
you
can-
put visor to visor, A, you could communicate that way, right? And B, their polarization, it stops the polarization, right? So you can see it. You see. She wakes with a start as you're like face to face, but her breathing is ragged. You look at her biomonitor, her suit is intact. She seems to have oxygen. Nothing seems to be damaged.
All right. I'll unhook her and assist her to get up.
Okay.
And then have her check on Eno.
On Owen.
Owen, sorry. Yeah, I keep getting the wrong name. Owen, yeah.
You sort of convey this through the shields, right? Really, you can't hear each other other than that. There are comms,
Right.
but the comms are damaged.
Wow. But that's what I want to get onto. So I want her to help him out,
right?
And then I want to get onto the diagnostics.
Yeah. All right. She gets up to go and he, puts up a hand.
I'm trying to help her up. So
Yeah.
get her.
But he puts up a hand when
he does,
you guys, yeah. No, she takes your help.
Yeah.
And such. So eventually you get things situated. The craft is a little damaged. It's actually no problem for you, and it's completely fixable.
How much time will it take?
I don't, because of you, and you have a gift that allows you to do things quickly, so you easily fix whatever is necessary, comms, the whole
I'm gonna start with the greatest import, life support from the
There's
suit.
no life in the suit.
And I'm going to talk about the suit, integrity
Yeah.
of the suit. What else did you say was
Integrity of the ship.
Integrity, just the.
Can you take off? Right? Is the computer okay? Is there any hull damage? That kind of thing.
and assess the damage in general.
Yeah. And by the way, you run completely on sensors. There's no screen, or there's no glass.
Right.
There's maybe
Not
little
a
ports
monitor.
where you could kind of just visual check.
42-inch
and it's the
LCD.
first thing
Yeah.
goes and checks visually pieces of glass that are this thick. Kind of idea. Good.
And then finally my drone.
And find your drone. Everything's is intact. You are getting some weird readings off of some of your diagnostic equipment. It's some warping. Some warping's not the right word. hull integrity is okay, but you're just getting some strange readings. You're not certain what it means. It's not telling you that there's a breach, but it's telling you that there are some changes in like molecular structure of the hull. You're pretty certain it's within tolerance. The computer tells you it's in tolerance, but it's a change. I don't think most people would even notice that there's a change, but you're like, that's different than that. What it should be.
Yeah. Again, my enhancement is diagnosis.
Yep.
It's diagnostics. So I'm just going to evaluate the safety, I guess, at this point to move everybody out of the ship so I can look at the external of the ship.
Yeah.
We gotten outside of it at all? Yeah.
You have not gone outside.
Yeah.
Owen's waiting for your go ahead. You're the operational leader right now.
Yeah. Check on them, make sure they're good, and it's just that they're okay with me opening
Everybody's fine. She does the scans and so forth.
And
it was just traumatic. I mean, to make sure that you guys don't have concussions because you went unconscious, that kind of deal. Blood flow seems to be fine. It just seemed like an immediate trauma. A lot of the technology sort of took the brunt, although your diagnostic equipment is telling you that was a wild ride. Like that was at the threshold of the tolerances.
So you can send that up to Eno and then, request permission for Eno to exit the vehicle. We'll give you the work. Is Eno in touch with us?
There's no communication because of the IO.
And it is all on you.
Yeah. All right. And then as soon as I get out, it's really, I'm focusing here on the surveillance. So you imagine, a flying drone of sorts, like Blade Runner 2049, an introductory scene. He's like, all right, just scan everything. Okay. He's talking. He would talk to it, and very matter of fact, like, do this. Yep. Take a look at here. Just see if you can see anything unusual.
Does your drone have any?
No.
Okay.
Not that important.
Is it attached? Can it get attached to you, or is it like a case, or what?
No, it's like a case.
It's a
case.
It
would be separate.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And then give me feedback, but specifically on environmental conditions here, environmental data.
All right. I need you.
Because that's one of my edge here.
I want you to roll 4 dice.
This is why I'm here, by the way. Okay.
I want you to roll 4 dice for the drone.
Which dice?
Woohoo! All right.
Rolled 4. I got 2 zeros.
4 successes. All right. So we're going to say.
Don't you want to see if it's exploding?
So write this down. Your drone is a little bit larger, right, than a lot of surveillance drones because it's reinforced. So it's reinforced to EM. It's reinforced to, and EM for you is other signals, right? So you have a direct line. Mm-hmm. You have whether it's the case, I think you open it up, and then you control it by the case. Like you could talk to it, but you diagnostics, the whole 9 yards, you can read on a pad. So that case is a direct line to it, and it's a strong signal.
Mm-hmm. I imagine like a little sort of goggle look-in kind of thing. So just sort of the interface.
Yes.
Right. So it's kind of.
And this is
gotta get up
some very analog tech, right? Yeah. And it's because like it's a closed circuit. This is as ironclad as it gets.
Yeah.
What
makes it simple? So it's more of a black and white, not a visual image, but like a LiDAR image that's reproduced. Yeah.
And it is like, wow, out here. There's a lot of fluctuation. There's a lot of particulates in the air. Your suits will be okay. Like they'll hold armor, but you have to maintain certain thresholds, and like you can't be in certain areas and certain heights and things like that without some degradation going on.
Could it be mitigated by being careful about where you're going?
Yes, you could. If you and the computer and whoever else plotted the course
Right.
carefully.
Imagine we picked relatively close to the place we think the colony is. Right?
You're about a day
Okay.
of a day's travel, and this would extend that day a little bit. You don't want to be out here that much longer.
Yeah.
Your reprocessors will help rebreathing. So there is an extent, like I said, you could pull air from the air. You don't want to open those visors anytime soon. In fact, it might even suggest that you go with video only. Don't keep those screens, because those screens, while they're durable, those screens, what they will do is they will begin to cloud from abrasion.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to
put the shield down.
You want to put shields down and go video only.
Real quick before I do that, and this is also just for our sake.
Yeah.
After focusing everything and then just kind of looking back and making sure that Amira's got Owen covered and the drone's going, I just stop. I'll let them know, hey, we got to have the shields down because this is not going to hold up on your visor here, and so we're going to have to put the shields down. But then right before I do that, I'm going to stop, take a spin around. What's the horizon look like? What's the environment look like? Is there any vegetation?
It is
mountainous, rocky.
It is very mountainous, and there are really crazy, dramatic sloped peaks. So if you imagine, I'm not saying mountains are generally like perfect triangles, right? But these are every formation is like a cliff with a giant slope.
Wow. Okay.
Now, in order for this thing to go back up, you're going to need to find shelter. So the last thing I want you to do before we change the scene and go up to your friends to move on is find shelter. I need you to make a survival check for me. And how do you approach? There's another interesting piece of the game. You can kind of describe, if you narratively describe how you're doing something, you often can use almost whatever stat attribute you want to. One of the examples they have is that if you're the kind of person who analyzes a shot by understanding trajectories and the physics of the shot, and you're checking wind velocity and all that sort of stuff, then you can be like, I'm going to use cunning instead of a dexterity.
Right.
So as long as you're describing what you're doing, then you can roll whatever stat.
In a way that's believable, right?
In a way that's believable and narratively important, right? And just keep in mind force, finesse, and resolve. So it would be hard to say how you're going to use a sniper rifle with resolve.
Right.
Other than you could be like, you know what? I am waiting and I am patient enough that I'm just going to wait for the perfect moment. And that might give you a time complication, but go ahead and use resolve. Does that make sense?
So this is not, Virio's first, time landing on a unfamiliar planet and then having to, quickly, get themselves into a good place.
Because you can't stay here.
Because you can't.
And by the way, there's a blast zone you have to leave in order to not get roasted by this.
No, I mean, mainly we just have to be out of here. Now typically, I'm going to be looking for, a manufactured shield. So, I think I'm going to, and then in synergy with the surveillance drone, say, see if you can find anything that's got, that's got metal or.
Great. So the surveillance drone is going to give you an enhancement. So as long as you roll one success, you're going to get a +1. And I think you have an enhancement from your environmental.
The edge.
I think you have an edge for environmental.
Yeah. Well, reduced difficulty for environmental data.
Yep.
Oh, reduced difficulty. Oh, that's important. Okay. So it's sort of a free success, not an enhancement. It's not a free success. It's actually a reduced difficulty. And here, your difficulty is going to be a 3, so you go down to a difficulty 2. So you need 2 successes right now now, if you roll 1, the enhancement from the drone means you succeed.
Right.
You would spend dice successes. You would spend successes to find things like possible water, underground, something that is a way, so maybe not a place that you can remove the suits, but a place that's going to be safe. Are you worried about predators?
Definitely something.
Successes over difficulty.
Successes over
Something covered, but I'm going to say, that there's been a civilization here, however big or small. So, I'm going to kind of target, areas that look like there might have been, even though we know we're away from the main inhabitants here, but at some point somebody might have been out here doing the same thing, looking for
a big consequence that you're going to have to buy off, just so you're aware. Sometimes I tell you these things ahead of time, other times I don't. A big consequence is shortening the time between your friends getting here. Like, is this a place that's going to, it's only going to be one extra success you're going to need to make certain that you don't push the time it takes for them to come down, where it's going to be safe and you're meeting those thresholds from.
Yeah, ultimately a good spot for us all to kind of set up.
And be safe.
Exposed
All right,
here.
so what are you going to roll?
Can I do cunning and survival?
Cunning and survival.
Yeah.
And you have a specialty, and your specialty adds in another enhancement. So right now you have 2 enhancements. So you have 2 extra successes as long as you roll 1. So 6 plus 4
Plus 3?
plus 3. So you have 9 dice.
You better get one success, right?
There you go.
An odds, yeah.
But I'm glad you explained what the added success was, as long as I get a success.
Right.
So you kept saying as long as I get 1, and I kept thinking, if I roll a 1, no.
Okay. 1,
1, 2, 3, 4.
4 successes.
4 successes, but 3 1s.
Yeah, but you still got more than...
Ones don't matter.
Okay.
4 successes plus 2 extra from enhancement. So you have 6 successes. All right. That's easily going to wipe out any complications. Describe what you find. 6 successes. It's just like you get what you.
A resort.
There's a wreckage of a ship.
Do you also, in this, do you want to be closer to the site, to the colonists? You could spend 3 of those successes to be closer to the colonists. You need 2 for the complication of, am I going to be here long enough?
If I may, I'd rather take those successes and rather be closer.
Okay.
Be able to seal off the environment and what I find by making some slight changes.
Very interesting. Okay.
So I find
Especially using maybe the crawler and some of the infrastructure in the crawler. I think you could basically...
And what I found, because I was looking for basically sheet metal. So here's what I would suggest that I found. I found a crashed ship, but nothing usable. This was a ship that just had come in, if this makes any sense, and just, hit the ground and a long time ago, and went underground, completely destroyed.
Yes.
But hollowed out
you
and
find
left,
what
and
you
left the
think is
shell.
probably the colonists' ship.
It may have been their original, their original vessel they got.
You're right, it's destroyed, right? But you find enough of it to use as a bluff. You are shocked. No one else here would have been able to notice that was a man-made object. It now looks like, the contours and so on and so forth. Everything else looks like it's just part of it, and you're like, that rivet is man-made.
Yeah.
And you start taking it apart and so on and so forth.
And then I find a hollow underneath large enough for all of us.
You guys, you are a little concerned because
Incompetence.
it takes a little longer than you expect. You're not picking up the return, but eventually you do a full pass.
What do you call them? Roaches? No, what was the other word for them? What is the baseline?
Baseline.
Baseline. Yes, not roaches. Sorry.
Wow, that's great.
What'd you say about this not being PvP? I'd like to see this scion say this to my face.
This one will.
So you do one pass, and it doesn't come in the first pass, which you're surprised.
So we're like, hopefully they aren't dead. That would be unfortunate.
That would.
You
I feel like he and I are sitting there. like in the back talking to each other, watching everybody else try to do this, and the commander completely stressed out about what's going on. And we're just like, oh, the incompetence.
And it does a pass. Now, in a very brief window, you are able to find 3 life signs. Seems relatively strong. It's more mental than anything else. Again, a noetic device that's enhancing your abilities and your abilities.
I can sense their feelings at least. In their minds.
You can sense that they're awake. You can sense they are distressed on some levels. Hopefully, it's not. What's one of my favorite lines from Jurassic Park? It starts with the oohs and ahs and ends with the running and screaming. You hope it's not that kind of distress.
And then run there.
But they seem to be moving relatively slowly, and then sure enough, you feel as the other vessel, right, just it's not subtle at all. So one of the crew, at least, is just like, I'll never get used to that. I think it's Laz. Mm-hmm. Laz is like, I will never get used to that. It's like because it feels like you just got hit by something. It just turns out that like the combination of velocity and the magnetic kind of sticking.
Well, it's also essentially military utility, right? Like not a spare no expense type craft. This is like it works. Who cares what happens to the people on the
as long as they don't die?
As long as they don't die.
Lowest cost contract.
A biotechnical ship. This is not.
Right.
All right.
If you packed 9 out of 10 parachutes,
Well, it's probably by then we've already got our stuff packed up, ready to go.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Well ready to go. So we're like, all right, good enough.
Let's see here. Eno does a diagnostic sweep. I know you guys are ready to go, but it's like I'm checking everything. We're not going to go until the next rotation because I want to check that everything's right.
Right.
There is somewhere that between the 2 vessels, there is a seal that's not right. Unfortunately, you do not have the ship mechanic with you.
Right.
Do any of you have technology?
I do, but it's very baseline.
Okay.
Yeah, Sam, I got 1 dot in them. Like he's he has enough familiarity with like ship systems from just living on a ship, but he's not a technician.
Okay. There is a repair that you are going to have to make. You are going to go outside. You do have the equipment to do this.
Boy.
Someone.
Well, I do have I'm pretty good out in space anyways. I kind of grew up in space.
You did?
So
You did? Eno could help walk you through
tech side of it.
the tech side of it. They're not great, but enough that they see what you see, and you guys can sort of troubleshoot it if you want to go outside.
I'm a physicist, not a technician, but sure, what the hell?
So there's 2 ways that people help each other, right? We're going to use the simple method, which is just enhancement. So Eno and Eno and Sonia and Dupree. Eno and Dupree will both give you 1 enhancement. Okay. There is also something called a team effort, where it's like when the group are all doing disparate things, all with different skills, that all comes together in the end, where you roll, and then they become enhancements. And failure is interesting because failure just means you might add complications to the team leader's role.
And enhancements, successes after I get 1 success, right?
Yes. Yep. So you have 2 successes as long as you get 1.
Got it. So, I put a suit on and prepare for my spacewalk.
Okay.
Head out, and once I'm ready, I guess I'll head out.
Sounds good. You head out. I need you both to make a composure roll.
Okay. Just straight composure, not any skill, or
it's if you feel like there might be a skill involved, it can.
Depends on the context, I guess.
What you see disturbs you. You see that the hull is like of the lander of the dinghy is like sheared, is like rounded off. And Do you guys remember in Dungeons and Dragons? You see the Dungeons and Dragons movie?
Yeah.
And remember when she put her axe into the lava and then takes it out and it's like all melted? And she's like, cool, right? That's what it looks like. It looks like a part of an edge is like someone moved the metal of the outside of the bench.
Unfortunate.
Now, again, the computer, all diagnostics lead to integrity is fine, but what it did was it moved enough metal that space between the Keres and the dinghy left a gap.
It doesn't seat very.
I can have it like computer like run test diagnostics to see if we think we can land again with this thing, because doing it once is one thing, but
right. However, go ahead and roll to see if you can fix it. And how are you guys going to fix it? How are you going to approach it? You're going to have a third enhancement bonus from equipment on the vessel.
I'm going to use basically my kind of like learned intelligence, basically my like learned knowledge of the ship and so on, and apply that to it, because I don't have the hands-on experience, but I have the mental experience of like I study everything.
Sure. You bring up a YouTube video,
right? Yeah. I fast forward for the first 10 minutes.
YouTube doesn't exist, but the computer network on Earth is called the OutNet. Just so you're aware.
Okay, so I have one check, but I have 4 intelligence, so nice. I got 2 8s and 10s, so that's 4 successes.
And that didn't include our
plus the 3?
Right. Yeah.
Plus the 3?
Yeah.
Again, knocked it out of the park. Not even going to worry about it. You're able to get some shielding. You're able to like pull some equipment on. Do maybe you have like maybe a little drone that does some external repairs for you and with you. You just have to kind of and you create a false edge basically. Right. It like releases the ship just enough. You're like in this sweet spot where it's not repelling, but it's and you can kind of manipulate it and you kind of fix.
Yeah, and while I'm doing this, I'm like planning in my head already to like basically like program like simulations for running the ship deck down. I basically want to test to make sure that we're going to be able to bring it down and take it back up again.
And you're actually able to create a buffer that will help protect this. Going down. So not only does it say, yes, it'll go down, you fixed it, it's like, this is not likely to happen again, at least in this area and maybe other areas. So you are kind of creating like a little bulletproof prevention mechanism. You like throw on probably like 4 more layers.
All sweaty from your work. I look at you and said, success was never in doubt. I foresaw it.
All right. You're looking through again. There's a little port that the 2 ports connect. Like one of the external ports connect to the internal port of the inside of the ship, right? And the ship is an airlock. There is no airlock. Right. Yeah. What they do is they flush the air oxygen into tanks. They don't waste it. It goes into tanks. Everybody has suits on, and then you guys go into...
The ship really is pretty
analog. Yes, it's very analog. There's not room to airlock stuff in that regard. There is some depressurization that goes on and stuff like that. You guys are safe in vac suits. And then you...
Oh, no, we forgot to tell... someone.
Sitting on the pod.
Right, could be a problem.
The communications officer, you're so bad to them. Should we tell them?
They'll figure it out.
That's not to say that quarters and things like that aren't sealable. They are. Right? So you may not have to depressurize the whole, but there's a fair amount of the ship that's like hallways and cargo bays and stuff like that are not depressurized.
Okay.
That are depressurized. In any case, but you could see her or them watching as it as it dismounts, and like, you know, I think the two of you sort of like are looking at each other as you go off. Just something that does, on every launch. Interestingly enough, which some of you may be used to, some of you may not, no matter what this thing does, somehow you all stay completely and absolutely calm through the entire
I'm probably meditating, like, I might even be like, using my power or whatever to help everyone else.
That's why. Okay. Yes, it's because no matter what happens, it's part of the side of the ship could shear off into open space, and you'd all be perfectly fine. Luckily, that does not happen. You guys are well outside the blast radius. Again, this is not a subtle ship. You are plummeting. At some point in time, this thing starts spinning as thrusters get engaged to flip it into a trajectory that it can basically, all its thrusters then are, it's not VTOL, it's not that fancy, but there's enough thrusters that orient you all. It's a little disheartening, and then you go down. But you do need to roll to see if you stay conscious. So both of you need to roll to see if you stay conscious.
Stamina?
The complication, this is an abstraction. The complication that you worried about is somewhat the other, who else is with you, is Ghost. I wrote Ghost. Kaz. Kaz is with you as well. You need collectively have to spend complication if you want Kaz to be awake.
I got 2 successes.
I had 2 successes.
You have 2 successes. So, but the two of you stay awake, and between the two of you could spend your extra to keep Kaz awake. So, which is much better than the previous group did.
Kaz, take my bag.
By the way, you guys have combined quarters. There's 4 people in each.
Okay.
So just so you're aware, right?
Separate after this.
They think it's a pilot program. They really mean. They're like, if they come back alive, maybe we'll come back alive.
So we'll take their input for the next trip. In any case, you do all of the same things, right? Do you come out for the next landing?
Actually, no. I send Amina and Owen. Yeah.
Okay.
You could send a drone too, probably, right?
All right. And so you're going to stay here by yourself and send them.
She's a
I mean, at least them.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, Owen just does basically whatever you tell Owen to do.
Yeah. Well, they need to get the med pod back. That's basically it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. So they suit up. They put shields down. All right.
I'm going to keep with preparations.
Sure.
I've been doing that for the past.
Yes. So it's been almost a day.
Yeah.
Right. What are your priorities? Right. You have a good shelter. You have a relatively sealed shelter. Not enough to take off your suits, but you have a relatively sealed shelter. You're not worried really about any of that stuff. It does mean, that's a good question. I don't know how this works. It does mean you have to use, I don't know. What do you guys think? I think it's probably late enough. There's probably food recyclers, right? I feel like the suits probably...
Yeah, I'm more wondering about the oxygen, how long the suits, oxygen.
Well, you would be in trouble if the air wasn't actually oxygen and nitrogen rich.
It's just got other things that we don't want.
It's just at an imbalance, and there's other extras. So you're not worried about air because those recyclers can work. But yeah, I think there are actually food recyclers as well.
3D printers that can print anything.
Right, exactly. So you have kind of like a little back thing. It's not forever, but it can recycle.
Well, I love how they got 3D printers who can print anything, but they still don't give us our own quarters or a lander that works.
You know what? The maker is big enough that the maker gets its own quarters. Why don't I do my own?
I think I'll take the opportunity to, while they're leaving the shelter with the door open, to send the drone out as well. Just because I don't know what the capability of the civilization that's near here. Mm-hmm. And, obviously they hadn't shown up when we landed. They just made a lot of noise. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that would triangulate anybody coming our way. So I think between here and the direction of the civilization that we're coming from, send the drone up and say, look for anything living.
Okay. So the first thing you guys notice is that you don't have comms. Mm-hmm. Okay? Do you want to do anything about that?
Well, I'd like to use, if I can, the network telepathy ability to create our own comms, basically.
Sounds good.
Is there a range on that? Or is it?
It's a lot.
Medium?
It's not. Yeah, it's medium. So you're all with.
So it's like a rifle shot, basically.
You're all with the medium.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to do that. Just roll anything for it, or
no. Unless it's like dramatic,
right?
Important.
That's what I figured.
Right? But so instead of worrying about other comms, it's a little disorienting.
I feel like it's probably creepy for some people in the group who are like, get out of my head, and they're like, no, this is how we have to talk. Sorry.
Right.
Actually, I make the comment that if you just spend 5 minutes fixing your equipment, you don't have to use all these.
Right, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. I say this way is easier.
You're all ostensibly in communication. You're all communicating. So it's you are told put your shields down. That's why communication became really important. You do know that Amina and Owen are outside, and they're like, make it snappy. We do not want to be out here. And you can tell that they're of heightened levels of distress that you ameliorate as they get into your zone a little bit.
I give them some of my mind ecstasy.
Yeah, but it is, they're like,
should come down.
They're like, this out here is no joke.
Yes, when I noticed that the flight path was inconsistent, I'm basically trying to get into a place where I can be settled, so I can concentrate and do the attunement, because I suspect that much of this has to do with the aberrant.
Gotcha.
Might.
Yeah.
Could also just be the atmosphere, but
awesome. So let's end this scene with you doing your thing.
Okay.
Do you want to do it in the shelter, or do you want to do it here?
No, not on the ship. On the shelter. I need quiet, and I need to make sure that I'm getting an accurate reading.
Okay. I want to tell you, and you get to veto this. However, there is one main concern, and that is, all readings suggest, not knowing what is ahead of you, all readings suggest you send the dinghy back up, that it does not remain here in this element.
I mean, it's continuing to get damaged.
Yes. And the buffering, some of the reinforcements definitely helped it, but
it would be safer to send it up and then have them send it back down to us.
Much safer to send it back up. It reduces a certain amount of flexibility for your operation, obviously, but you would be very concerned about the shape of it. By the way, I want to point out that just some of the imagery you're getting and diagnostics you're getting from the drone, you're really impressed by the reinforcements that got added to...
I mean, looking at the ship.
Yeah, to the ship.
They did a good job.
I was just making it up as it went along.
But there was still some of that warping.
It was a creative way of manufacturing, 3D.
So I look at them and I say, that is an operational decision and outside of my responsibilities. Would you excuse me?
Right.
And I exit.
Right. So you go find a corner, right? All right. Are you taking any
hallucinogens?
Precautions? Are you asking for any help? Is there anything you're doing to help augment what's going on here?
I think the enigma of the weather patterns is bothering me. It seemed intentional. And so I'd like to be able to use an enhancement of my enigma to get a sense as to whether or not that might be influencing what's going on here in my search for my aberrant.
You want to look at the big picture,
Yes,
and say, I think that's excellent. Go ahead and roll any successes. There is a difficulty of 2, but any successes beyond that would give you enhancement, and then, yeah.
Okay, so I got 4 because of my side die. Right?
Nope, not side. This is just you using your brain for the big picture.
Oh,
But you could add your
my intellect or my cunning.
Or kind of,
Yep.
yeah.
So cunning is finesse, intellect is power.
Right.
Cunning would be like, how do you see yourself using force?
Yeah.
Mental force? How do you see yourself using mental finesse?
Yeah, I can use the cunning on him once I know he's there.
So what's
So
that?
I'm going to use the intellect and the enigma, which would be a total of 4. Oh wait, actually I have 2 enigmas, so I would have 5.
How do you see this as using your big brain? Like what? Right. One is picking out details, right? The other is just sheer force of.
It's a sense of putting it all together. It's a sense that there is this crowd for pain that he was picking up on. You know, it's the sense that there's this malevolent force out there. There's these things going wrong with the ship. It's putting all this stuff together to say this is well beyond the power of some guys, some scientists sitting in some bunker someplace. Yeah. This is something else.
You're pulling in book smarts.
This is this is not deduction. This is just, it's coming to you.
It's coming to me it's coming to me. This is raw brain power because
go for it.
This is what a precog does. 3 successes.
3 successes.
That's pretty good.
Nice. All right. This is absolutely the work of an aberrant.
Okay.
And you actually pick up on a very important piece of information. And that is you see quantum in everything. Like you can see the hand of quantum flux. This could be a disaster caused by it. It could be something that is actively being used. You're not certain, but you're absolutely correct. And you felt it coming down. You've known it through this whole thing, and you land, and you're absolutely certain that this whole thing is in the hands of a very powerful aberrant. All right.
Topography.
Do you want to know what the fallen are, little one? In a sense, they are angels, but not the angels your mom imagines she prays to. Brass trumpets picnicking in the clouds. In their true essence, they are great swirling engines of wing and blood, fiery eyes that peer around the corners between worlds. Dark, radiant things conjured from fresh battlefields. A Frankenstein's Valkyrie, forever crashing to Midgard. What grief demands their hate? What vast cannibal hunger?
Welcome to the Fallen Cycle. This is a universe full of secrets, waiting for those brave or foolhardy enough to seek them out. Discover more about the myth-punk Fallen Cycle universe at fallencycle.com.
Talk about the system as well. Talk about the system, right?
Sure.
And how we developed the characters and what we liked about it too. So I did like, once we kind of started off with the base of the character creation, just starting with here's your concept, here's your name. On the podcast we didn't see the images, but along with that you start with that. And then I also, just having flipped through the book for a few minutes before we started, was like, I want somebody that's really techie. I think I want to do something that's along those lines. And it was really nice how that could just get layered on as we got deeper and deeper into building the skills, the attributes, the edges on these characters. And I think it made it really exciting to come to this, this character, with having just started with that sort of vague concept and then came out with like a really cool character that I want to play.
Yeah, I love the imagery. I don't know how you did it or where you got it from, but the imagery for the characters that you generated was awesome. I felt it fit really well with the character structure as well, and the character development. It was a nice piece.
And you've played Chronicles of Darkness before. How different did this feel to you from?
Actually, it didn't feel particularly different from it, and in fact, during a character generation, I had forgotten how to do it, but it came back pretty quickly. And I do like the simplicity of figuring out how to resolve the, add up the dots.
Right.
That's pretty similar.
Tells you how many dice to use.
Yeah. And I like the way that maybe you're being generous, or maybe it's the system, but I like how you can come up with a storyline to arc a skill into a resolution for them.
That's part of the system. Yeah, that's part of the system.
So, I do like that.
I think before we talk about the system in general, I think character creation is something, Jamie, you have brought up before, and I agree. I think there was a misstep. This is not critical. This is merely observational. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. I like the system. I think it does a lot of what I like to do.
Yeah.
I think there was a misstep in the paths. So generally you're like, whether or not you use priority method, or you're just like, you get 15 dots. I think the paths don't really add a lot to this, especially since you're encouraged to make new paths.
Yeah.
So yes, it adds. It certainly is not a life path system like Burning Wheel or even Cyberpunk.
Right.
It does have these little flavors, but I think it added more complexity.
Right, and some of that complexity doesn't come up because we aren't using progression. But one thing I noticed is you can use a ton of XP and raise your path a dot, and then you get skill points as a result of that. Or you can use experience points and raise your skills a certain number of dots, and it's like you're basically doing the same thing.
Yeah. I think what I would have done is I would have allowed, instead of having that many dots, I would have allowed you to have dots in your path, and that those would be your extra dice. So now you're rolling path, maybe auxiliary skills instead. Right. And then your skills are not out to 5.
Right. Yeah, it's like either you make it more important or you minimize it.
Because I love the idea of leaning on your past, right? To roll.
Yeah.
Most of us do.
I do like how it picks your skills. I kind of dug that. I think that made sense in terms of character creation. I just feel like after character creation, it didn't feel like it added. It really.
See, I wouldn't have put skills in there at all.
Okay.
It's okay giving you.
Well, if you're gonna break it off and use it,
I would have said break it off. 6 points into skills, go. That's how I would have done it.
Then you also can add paths to your.
And then your path is thematic. I have the detective path. I'm using the detective path in this.
That's actually what we do with the Fallen Cycle system. We replace that system we're using right now.
There you go.
Get that exactly. For a roll is something you can use either your roll or your talent. You can't use both.
Yeah. So that's just a minor observation of how I would have probably done it.
Yeah.
Because I like the ideas of paths in this, but in this case, it doesn't really add, I think, to the game compared to, say, Chronicles of Darkness.
Yeah. There's a lot of things I like about the system, though.
Yeah. No. So let's talk about what we like about the system. So, Jamie, since you've read and played most recently, I want to point out I've been running Storyteller and playing Storyteller since 1991.
Sure.
But recently, so you're running this regularly, right?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about this experience compared to how you normally
versus Chronicles of Darkness? Yeah, and both are on XPath. One thing when I came into this, I had the assumption, or I feel like I read it somewhere online. I got this idea that Trinity was a kind of even more streamlined version of Chronicles of Darkness, but it's not. It's definitely not. It's it kind of adds some things to it. I think a lot of some of those additions are really interesting, and I like them. Some of them, like we've been saying, I feel like adds complexity without adding a whole lot in terms of added mental or whatever, learning those additional systems, what's it add to the actual play. Yeah. But in terms of the systems that we actually use in this session, make a lot of sense. Something I love about this system is the fact that it's very easy. It's very character centric. If you like character-centered stories, I feel like it, we
didn't even get to aspirations. I meant for you guys to do aspirations. This is going to be baseline. We'll talk about those later on.
Right.
I want to talk about something. Did you guys have anything before we...
Well, I'm just curious because I hadn't played Chronicles?
Right.
What are sort of the mechanical differences?
So they add a lot of little pieces. I mean, there's no edges. Specializations, I think, work a little differently.
Difficulty.
Difficulty is, that they add difficulty. And funny thing is, I basically added the same system to Chronicles of Darkness. Although it's usually more like, not like where you need 2 successes or 3 or whatever, the difficulty to succeed at all, but it's more like it distinguishes between a partial and a full success is how I usually do it, where it's like you get 1 success, like, the difficulty, quote unquote, is 3, then if you get less than 3 but more than 0, then you get a partial.
And that's how you do it, but that's not how.
No, that's not the COD.
The important thing with difficulty and the difference here, and I've really been thinking about this, is you remove dice for difficulty. If you get 1 success, you get 1 success.
Right.
If you get a success, it's a success, right? And what they do with difficulty is remove dice from your pool. Right.
Before you roll it. Yeah.
Before you roll it. And this, you're rolling, you have to meet difficulties. Right. And those difficulties can't be high. And I really thought about this a lot because removing a die actually has half the effect and half the difficulty of requiring a new difficulty level in Storypath.
Right.
Because removing a die only removes the possibility of 1 success, or removing a having to have a success is basically worth 2 dice. Statistically speaking.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Also, the whole complication system is not part of Chronicles of Darkness.
Right.
And so those complications that I will add to every single roll that you guys do.
Yeah. That people do it naturally, but that's not part of the
Sure. But and those complications that you have to buy off, it's necessary you have more dice.
Right.
The thing that's a little odd to me is that I keep hearing designers keep saying, well, generally you roll less dice than you roll in Chronicles of Darkness. And I'm like, I don't know, you're almost always going to roll more dice because your difficulties remove that. Right. Your skill stat thing is the same. Those scales are the same. I think there was a version of Storyteller where you got capped at 10. Not certain. I don't think that cap exists in here because you're spending successes. So
right. Although even still, like having a pool of 10 regardless is pretty.
This goes to 11.
Yeah, I mean actually, literally, yeah, it does. Right.
Right, because you have 6s.
And you always told us the difficulty is that.
Sometimes you know the difficulties. Sometimes you know the difficulty. Sometimes you don't. I feel like if it's in your bailiwick. So here's a piece that I use, and I feel like is important to the time economy, is a lot of dice. There's a lot of cognitive load, counting dice. My thought is like sort of in the vein of, say, Gumshoe or something, is if you have a certain level of skill in something, then I'm generally going to give you that information. Right. You naturally can tell the emotional content of the people.
Right, and my character has that skill.
I'm not going to make you roll for
unless
that.
If they're resistant.
Unless there's a narrative reason, unless there's something pressing, right? So the same thing goes with difficulties. You would get a lot of information on difficulties and complications in technology, because you're the tech head. Right? Yeah. You would get a lot of information on difficulties and complications because you're a detective, right? And so on and so forth. I give varying layers of information to my PCs.
Yeah, same.
Sometimes what will happen is I'll give you cards or scripts, and I'll give you information that the other people don't have just based on your skill levels.
Yeah.
And then I'll have you roll when there's something at stake, right? And sometimes you'll not know because, like, if you were the person to send down first, right? You guys were not the people to send. You have a little bit of technology and science,
right?
But this is such a crazy environment. You specifically have environmental stuff, right? So you guys would have just been like,
we're going to die.
Yeah. like hold on to your pants.
Just kind of basically use our raw, like, intelligence or whatever, and not not having much skill.
Ooh, right.
Yeah,
Not know what the difficulties are. You'd have been blind.
Right. Intelligence in the forest will get you killed.
And I already had the thing where, like, some of your complications are going to be you're going to go out without shields and somebody's going to lose half a visor.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just going to go opaque because of all of the particulates in the air, right?
Yes, that worked. That was good planning on our part.
And so on and so forth. So
I'm curious how combat plays out with this. If it's different.
we'll do that next session.
Yeah,
I suspect.
right.
But yeah, so this was the baseline of the game, and this is really the stuff that I want to show. There's another piece that I want to show that has to do with combat in the next one. Next time we'll talk about aspirations. We're all going to create aspirations offline, so that we can start and jump in. Now that you know what the mission is, now you know your characters a little bit more. Now you can create your goals, which is what.
And one thing I point out to Sean is because you're most familiar with D&D. One thing that's very different about both Chronicles of Darkness, I mean, both Storyteller, all of them, and Storypath systems, is the way damage is right. Yeah, like it's it takes it takes longer to heal. You can't just sleep it off. And it has effects on your dice pools and stuff after taking a certain amount of damage.
We're also going to see that this is emulating an action film. Right. So this is not like a lot of, say, OSR games that, we experience.
Right. Well, it's not definitely in that way.
Where it's actually hard to kill a character. Yeah. It's even harder than like early level D&D characters. You have to, now there's a death spiral. You get penalties to taking wounds, but you really have to work hard.
At least in Chronicles of Darkness, there's been a lot of encounter. Death is pretty rare as long as the whole party doesn't go down, but like it's pretty often the characters get wounded. And that affects that can affect the whole planning afterwards because you got one person who's maybe has a condition from that wound. And also, it's going to take them a week to get their, get their health back, that sort of thing, and they're playing around that. So it does affect things more than just I have half my hit points. I'm going to do a short rest. Okay, let's move on.
I should have considered a bad omen that we really had to consider bringing the med pod down.
Right.
Well, I think so.
I just have a vision of them throwing body parts in there, and the whole thing just keeping all the parts alive and sort them out when it gets in.
Wait, is this yours?
Just so we can just put it all in there.
Afterwards, while you're on the ship in safety, you're like, okay, I think that's my foot.
Phone station.
I took longer on that piece narratively than I was going to. I wanted a little bit of prep. I'm not normally a planner, right? But the volatility of this environment was actually important, and who you brought to your away team was actually important, and how you guys planned it, I think, was really solid. And I think the med bay is going to alleviate some of that deadliness, if by some chance there's conflict. I think that was
right there with you. Yeah.
I think what you guys did was really smart. I think you probably did it as well. And it actually put you guys in a position to alleviate having to make certain roles, the way you did it. So you could have rolled to try to reestablish communications, but because you decided to send the drone, and we know the drone is reinforced, that could have helped establish communications with comms, but then you just decided to just open her up.
Right.
And now you have comms, right? So I think those decisions, it's OSR, we talk, they all talk about rulings, not rules, right?
Sure.
And this is a way that I'm not running. This is not an OSR game by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it's important to know when to roll and when to not roll.
Yeah, for sure.
Based on what your players are doing.
Yeah.
So next time we go into, that was scene one.
Right.
That was, I guess to some degree, these are a couple complex scenes. It's almost an act one.
Yeah.
It's
kind of like two scenes, right?
And then the next two scenes, or the next act that I have is going to be about getting there and your initial contact.
Cool. See how it goes. Good.
Awesome. Thank you.
You have been listening to another episode of the Modern Mythology Podcast. We hope we gave you something new to think about that you can bring to your RPGs, writing, and other character-based games and art forms. Produced by James Kershaw. Soundtrack by Scott Landis and James Kershaw. For more information about this episode, articles, or links to our other related projects, visit modernmythology.net.